Hey screen printers, it's Ryan from Ryonet, and in this instructional screen printing video, we're going to show you how to get brighter, softer, more cost-effective white ink prints on black carded cotton shirts. Sure, I don't make it a secret, I'm a fan of combed ring spun cotton, but this all-made black cotton shirt is double the price of this high-quality working man's Fruit of the Loom HD cotton shirt, and sometimes customers just don't need that expensive shirt, and sometimes they like the heavier duty cotton feel. Since carded cotton shirts used with white ink is the majority of what's screen printed in the market, let's take some time to perfect this technique. With the right preparation, techniques, and products, you can up your white ink printing game, increase your profits, and be more competitive in a very commoditized market. The goal of our print is to transfer the right amount of ink, not too much, not too little, using the right transfer or printing method onto the garment in order to mat down the garment fibers and block out the garment color. Have you ever noticed how Plastisol transfers feel nice and soft but don't feel like they have much ink in them? It's because you're using a different transfer method to take a smaller amount of ink and mat down the fibers of the shirt. This video is going to show you how to get similar results on screen. Let's start with the right screen, move to the ink, and then to the technique. Making a great screen is imperative to getting a great result. Tension must be good, optimally 20 plus newtons. Mesh also has to be selected right. Most printers tend to go down in mesh when printing white ink. In this video, we're going to show you both. We're going to use two screens in the same design, compare and contrast the two results, and let you decide. Our standard 110 mesh is a static frame with standard Saudi high-tech mesh on it. It has an 80 micron thread diameter and 150 micron opening, pretty standard for a 110. This frame was stretched by Nortec Graphic and comes in at about 26 newtons. Our 156 mesh frame is a standard Saudi high-tech mesh. It is a 64 micron thread with a 120 micron opening. This was also stretched by Nortec Graphics and comes in slightly under at 25 newtons. If you do a little math here, you realize that the 156 mesh screen uses 80% of the ink through the hole openings as the 110 mesh. This means if we get just as good of a result with the 156 mesh, we can save 20% on ink. The coat of emulsion on your mesh is also very, very important. A good coat of emulsion, or thicker EOM, will hold more ink in the well. You should be able to feel this on top of the screen. A thin one will not hold as much. So you want a good EOM, technically about 20 plus, in order to hold a good amount of ink and then transfer it to the shirt. We recommend trying to achieve 20 EOM when printing white ink. To do this, you use a 2/1 coating method, starting on the inside, flipping the screen around to the outside, and then finishing again on the inside. We're using cryo-coat emulsion, which has good solids content, meaning that you can build up a slightly thicker stencil or inkwell. With the proper exposure, you can see zoomed in here that we have a great inkwell on the outside of the mesh, as well as amazing definition. On press, we need to ensure a good flat platen and printing surface and a good off contact. For these higher tension screens, 1/8 inch should be just fine. We also recommend using a shim, something like a quarter or this washer, to ensure off contact is even on the outside of the mesh if you don't have side clamps. On press, let's open the ink before we jump into the print. For this job, we're going to be using the new formula of Lava Low Bleed White, which we've changed the name to Lava Perfect White, Low Bleed Plastisol. This is an epic series of Wilflex ink and has been a huge hit to thousands of screen printers. Perfect White has all the same characteristics of Lava Low Bleed. Creamy in the bucket, easy to work with, applies amazing on press. Great flow because of the thixotropic properties of the ink, which allow it to start moving and flowing faster as the molecules in the ink are moved. Because of this, the ink stays down in the mesh, doesn't ride up on your squeegee, and flows easily through the screen at higher print speeds. With the updated Perfect White, we formulated it to be more opaque and have better low bleed properties, but still print like a dream and be nice and soft on the garment. For our print setup, you want to ensure that you have enough ink in your mesh. Don't skimp. If your ink isn't warm, put your platen under the flash and let it get hot. Then, with the screen in the flooded position, set the ink onto the platen, allowing the ink and the screen to absorb the platen heat. I recommend a few test prints to get the ink flowing before going into production. For squeegee, we're using a sharp, fairly new 70 durometer squeegee. For this ink on a manual press, you don't really need a thicker squeegee, though on an auto, 80 or 70, 90, 70 sometimes works a little bit better. A sharp squeegee is also very important to shear the ink through your mesh. Don't use old dull squeegees. Use new ones or sharpen them. For angle, we're using a medium to low angle, which helps build fluid momentum on the ink. We will keep this angle consistent with a pull method using a medium pressure to ensure the ink clears the mesh completely. This could take some practice, but good tension, good stencil, and good ink will help this too. For the second pass, let's talk about print speed. Most people print white ink a little bit slower, but we're actually going to speed perfect white up. Now this is a little hard to achieve and takes a little bit of practice, but what will happen is the fluid momentum of the ink will increase and it will mat down the fibers of your shirt, creating a softer, better print faster. Imagine waves on a beach. Slow-moving waves will go up over the sand, leaving the ripples in the sand and the contours there, whereas a fast-moving wave with a lot of momentum will flatten out the sand, leaving it soft and smooth. The goal of our print is to get the fewest passes with the highest mesh and the best quality of the print. Let's do some print experimentation on the Riley 500 and see what our best results are. First, you notice our flash dryer is keeping our platens warm and our shirts warm. This will help the ink flow better and move faster through the screen. Now we're going to start with the 110 mesh screen first and then adjust accordingly as our results will show on press. Remember your angle, first hit, that actually worked pretty good. So the second hit I might lower my angle just slightly. We're clearing the mesh. Now we're going to move to flash that and then do the same thing with our 156 mesh screen. See, a little bit harder to transfer the ink. This is also the first print through the screen, so I'm going to speed things up just a little bit. 110 mesh is definitely easier to print than 156 mesh. Let's come back here to the 110 and do one print on the overprint. Remember, keep things flooded. One hit on the overprint and do the same thing after we flash the 156 mesh. All right, let's do the same thing again, adjusting what we learned the first go around. This is the 110 mesh. Medium print speed there. It's probably too low of an angle, and this is really hard to do when you're manually printing to keep the consistency. It just takes a lot of practice. This is the 156 mesh now. This ink's starting to warm up, becoming a little easier to print. Definitely harder to get that ink to transfer through the mesh. Adjusting the angle a little bit lower. Come back to the 110. For one overprint, you can see it's definitely more opaque on that first hit. One overprint. You can always move faster on that overprint because the ink's already flowing. And then finally, the 156 on the overprint. All right, let's check out our results. We're starting with the first pass of the 110 mesh. Now this was the very first print, so I was dialing in my speed and angle a little bit. Came out great, nice and bright, soft. Obviously that's the ink itself. We do have a little bit of fibrillation right here. So let's see what happened with the next pass on the 156. Still nice and bright, actually a little bit smoother, less fibrillation on here. Then back to the second round with the 110, much better results. Pretty much no fibrillation at all. Very, very smooth print, very bright print. You can feel a nice stencil there on the shirt. And then the final 156 mesh, this is definitely very smooth, no fibrillation, and less ink because of the higher mesh. You can definitely see it takes a few test prints and dialing in your parameters, your angles, to get the best results. As we started to go forward, the first jobs were a little bit rough, then it started to get better and better as our results increased and the ink started flowing. As you can see, the consistency on a manual press is harder to achieve and does require practice. This is why an automatic press is ideal for printing. Imagine if every print was the same. Not only are you increasing your speeds and increasing your quality, but you could easily lower your cost of consumables by doing less print strokes. Lava Perfect White cures at 320 degrees through the entire ink surface. So if you're using an infrared flash dryer or conveyor dryer, keep in mind if you're temping with a laser gun, the ink surface needs to be slightly hotter than that to ensure the base is fully cured. With our results, looking at it with my eyes, the 110 definitely gives us a slightly brighter and thicker print, but the 156 looks great and we're saving 20% of the ink. I'd probably propose the 156 to the customer, saving ink and having a thinner layer on the shirt. Today we learned that with the right prep and good screens and tension, and the right ink and Lava Lobely Perfect White, we can get great results on press printing white ink on carded cotton shirts. Check out all the products we used in this video on screenprinting.com along with the new Lava Lobely Perfect White, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great screen printing videos.